All right, guys, it's time for the Next Level Guy Show, a men's interview, interest, and improvement-focused podcast featuring interviews with the greats from all industries to help you better your life. Each week, a new episode features an interview with one of the greats, covering all aspects of their story, from life hacks to tips and protocols that have allowed them to live life on the next level. We then highlight concrete action steps that you can use to improve your life. And now, your host, Ian Dawson McKay.
And today's guest is Roger Gracie. Roger is a retired mixed martial artist and a former professional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitor. He's the son of coral belt Mauricio Gomes and grandson of BJJ founder Carlos Gracie. He's one of Jiu-Jitsu's most decorated and accomplished athletes, considered by many as the greatest competitor in Jiu-Jitsu history. Roger taps black belts with white belt techniques, making it look effortless. His skill level is terrifying, and his ability to read the action borders on him almost being able to see the future, it feels like, when you roll. A member of both IBJJF and the ADCC Hall of Fame, Gracie won 10 IBJJF World Championships titles across multiple weight classes every year from 2004 to 2010, becoming the first competitor to win the open weight division 3 times. Gracie is a 2-time European champion, a Pan champion, and is an ADCC submission fighting weight, absolute and super fight champion. The only athlete to win gold in both his weight class and the open weight division with a 100% submission rate. He retired in 2017 after defeating the BJJ World Champion, Marcus Buchecha, leaving Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu without a single submission defeat in his record. He now spends his time coaching and inspiring the future generations of BJJ stars and helping the sport reach new levels. In this interview, we discuss how he transformed from meh to master ability, how he found himself through the sport, and how you should approach BJJ to see greater development, and why it doesn't matter your age or ability, you can excel and grow through Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And now, let's get to the interview. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This is a dream interview for me because I'm a big Jiu-Jitsu fan, and obviously to have the GOAT of all time, the greatest of all time on. But how would you explain who you are? How do you explain this phenomenal career you have, this coaching empire, etc.?
I see myself as a martial artist. That's how I see myself. And, someone that, since I was born, I lived through generations before me in, developing the art, teaching, not just martial artists who fight, but someone who teaches, I think that was also a huge part of my family. I think maybe, just as important as fighting is teaching.
And do you think there was always this sort of destiny for you to enter into martial arts? Was there a turning point for you? Or were you always going down that road, do you think?
No, actually, I was very far from it until I was about 14, 15. I think until then, I was never took any seriously, never really saw like a clear path as a fighter, taking, as a martial artist. I think I always thought it very big in my family, but I never really, before you were a kid, I've never really decided before I want to be a fighter. This is what I want. And the turning point was when I'm from Rio de Janeiro, so I went to the south of Brazil to a place called Florianopolis. I had 2 of my uncles living there, Helion and Crowley, my mom's brothers. So I went to see my uncle Helion to stay with him, like summer holidays. It was summer. I went there for about a month. And then I had my uncle Hollis Gracie was living there with him. And Hollis is, I think, 3 or 4 years older than me. So I was like a kid, 14, 15, yellow belt, chubby, not really training much. And Hollis was already like 17 and like an athlete, purple belt competing. and just staying that time with them. My uncle's like, Roger, you have to train. Like, I was barely training. And it's like, man, you're Grace, you have to train, you have to, get into a diet, man, you're out of shape. You can be a champion. Hollis would be the heavyweight champion, you'd be the middleweight champion, because I wasn't that big back then. And I think just the daily, he had a gym. Like, my mom is a Gracie, not my father, even though that my father is a big person in the jiu-jitsu world, a big fighter, one of the best of his generation. But I didn't grow up with, he never had his school. So I didn't grow up with like a father figure taking me to the academy, living like what it is to live through jiu-jitsu. And my father, when my uncle Hollis was his teacher. And Hollis died when I was 2 months old. And then my father kind of was very sad, and he kind of moved away from jiu-jitsu for many years. So, and that was when I was born. So it took him many, many years for him to get back into it. So during all the time, I had my uncles, cousins, who I used to train with, but not my dad. I never had anyone taking me to the cabin, never knew, what it is to live through that. So when I went to see my uncle, suddenly I stay at his house, and I used to wake up. I used to go for a run, and then have a very light breakfast, eating fruits. We used to go to the academy, train. He used to teach, and then we used to discuss, just some techniques after. I mean, not that I was discussing. I used to listen to them, and then we used to train again in the evening, and that was like a daily routine. I just fell in love with that life, like living, nature. We used to go to the waterfalls during the day, running, dieting, training. That kind of really inspired me. Like, I really had felt like a passion for it. And then when I go back to Rio, I was a changing person. I was like, this is what I want. I moved back to live with him. I was like, I want to, this is the place that I'm really motivated to teach, to learn. And he was like, come live with me. So I went back next year. I moved to the south of Brazil, Florianopolis. I live with him and my other uncle, Carling. And I think from that moment on, I was changed.
And do you think that gave you that kind of discipline, some sort of structure that you were craving? How did that help you sort of fall in love with the sport? Was it the kind of the physicality to help you get into shape, but also the kind of emotional development through the sport and learning and growing as you trained?
I think that kind of gave me a direction. Like, suddenly I saw what it is, what it means to be a Gracie. That's what I
Mm.
thought, because that's where every uncle and cousin of mine used to do. They all teach. They all had academy, and they all used to train, and they all used to teach and fight. That's the life, the life of a Gracie. And suddenly, when I thought that, I was like, this is amazing. And I mean, I was always a very competitive person, but then I was like, man, I want to be a fighter. Then I was like, then I got inspired by the champions in my family. I'm like, I want to be one of them.
Because you said people didn't really pay attention to you till you were about 18. What do you think made you go from an okay fighter to like one of the elite, to eventually becoming the greatest of all time? What was it? Do you think you made that jump? Was it a skill development? Was it a kind of a mental shift? What would you attribute it to?
Was my motivation and my dedication. My motivation to be the best, which when I decided to become a fighter, to train to be a champion, I wanted to be the best. Even back then, when I was like nothing, I was one of the bottom, the bottom of the line, below everyone, and no one really. That's why no one really pay attention to me. You can see as a kid someone who has talent, right? You can see, oh, this kid can be really good. So he kind of shows something when he's a child. Because I never really dedicated, stay away. I never really showed anything. So nothing that people would see and say, oh, he has great talent. For me, I was just a normal kid. And so my motivation to be the best and my dedication daily to become the best. I think were the two combinations that made me.
It's scary to think of you even considering yourself the low. Like from what we see now, it's hard to imagine you getting beaten and struggling because you have this kind of instinctual way of controlling people. Like I I watch and all sometimes as you just it looks like you're about to get swept and you just shift your leverage, your base, you just have this sort of natural flow with it. How do you set up your training to do this? Is it just rep after rep from bad positions or good positions till it becomes second nature, or how do you approach training to become such a level you are?
Uh, I think when you approach training is like when you're gonna train with someone, you facing each other. You're trying to win. You're trying to dominate the person and submit him. I think that's the goal of jiu-jitsu. You need to first you need to dominate the other person. You're going to put yourself in a strong enough position that from that position you can now have options to submit the other person. Then that's the goal. Once you can dominate someone, then submission ideally should be easier. Then if you're in an equal position, then it's very hard because the other person is in a position as strong as you. Then he's fully ready to defend your attacks. When you're in a very dominant position, like if you mounted someone, sitting in the person's chest, that person's completely pinned. So for him even to escape that position, then he'll give you something. That's the position you want to be, to have fully control of the other person before you submit. And I think the way to approach is like you constantly trying the same goal. It's to put the person in a pinning position and then submit him. So it's the repetition, and over again teaches you everything. Back then I used to teach. I used to train every day, twice a day. I've done that for years and years. So you kind of always sort of go back to the same situation. You train with your training partners. You have many different training partners, all levels, and then you get caught with something, and then you get caught again, and then you get caught again, and you're always trying to change something, not to get caught. To make it, to improve, to defend the situation. And I think the improvement comes from that. Is the person is trying to submit, to sweep you. He'll sweep you once, twice, as many times as he needs for you to change something. Then when you change, now it becomes harder. Then you improved. And
Because
sweeping,
that's
not getting swept, what you're saying is like, it's almost, when you're about to be swept, to be reversed, it's almost like standing in a medicine ball. Like you seems to be going down, almost going, and then it's like a balance, leverage, or, reaction of quick reaction of putting the hand there, changing the shape of your body changes everything. It's under the way you're pushing the weight to the other side. So those sort of things.
because that's what every time I watch it's like because I never saw anybody else that was tall with long limbs kind of excel the way that you were doing it. And that because I've always seen these people like spinning underneath. And I mean, I'm fat. I got out of shape with COVID. And I looked and it's like, I need to get back to jiu-jitsu. And I couldn't see anybody doing pressure passing. And then you had this way of just dominating and controlling. And no matter where you came in what position, you were just every second you just seemed to be knowing exactly what they were going to do. So is that how you learned? You just kind of asked questions, you sat and watched and just
I mean,
kind of put yourself out there?
yeah, of course, I had great teachers who helped me along my life. They all helped me, and I've learned a lot from them. But it's I never had a teacher daily that they used to follow me, and watching my training, every training session. Then we sat down and said, "Look, oh, you did this wrong. No, you got to do this." That I never had, ever. I had uncles, my father, my cousins, who always helped me, but none of them were like always beside me, looking my training and then trying to correct me after. And the way you described, and I think for you to really master something, you have to be fully relaxed, your body. And if you're very stiff, you're very easy to be moved, very easy, and very easy to be swept, very easy to be put in positions, and you get tired. I think to really master jujitsu is the ability to fight relaxed, because then you're truly using your body, you're truly using leverage. You're not. muscling your way to win, because as long as you have energy, you'll be right, but your energy will eventually will you'll tire. So I think the main thing, especially relating what you're saying, is I have a very relaxed way of fighting. Like I don't try to muscle my way into situations. Of course, there's some energy they have to put. It's not that I'm completely relaxed that I don't use strength. Of course I do, but I don't rely on strength. I rely on leverage and my technique. I think it's the one of the biggest difference between me and my opponents. It's when you try, the moment that we grab each other, we move. If you're very stiff, that means it's the lack of confidence and technique. And like I was always very positive with my skills.
That, I mean, that alone would have helped so many people, because I can remember when I started, I was holding on for dear life and I was getting thrown around. And then as soon as I got better, and as soon as you went to the sort of color belt class, you realize how easy people were taking on you as a white belt, because suddenly it opened up. And as I started trying to understand pressure passing, I watched some of your videos, and it just sort of clicks. I was nowhere near on your skill level, but like all your amazing videos and your tips, and then how do you keep that sort of sense of calmness? Because I read somewhere that you said about being the chubby kid who couldn't overpower people, so you focused on your technique. Do you have that confidence because you're focusing on the technique, but also that that you've got a mission in jiu-jitsu? Or like, where does this stem from, that confidence, the calmness to relax in jiu-jitsu? Is it just doing the rep after rep?
uh, yes, I think first is because I start as a child, and everything that you start as an adult, it's you'll never be fully relaxed because it's too late. The adult, you will never really release that tension, your body tension. So because when you're learning, you will try to muscle your way into things. The adult will do that because you have power, so you will use. It's inevitable. That's why every beginner uses a lot of power, because that's what they have. This like, I don't have technique, but I have power. So I'm going to use it, until I can learn. The more I learn, eventually you'll start relaxing a little. But as a child, you see they don't use power because they don't have it. Every game the child plays, every sport, everything, the very child are very relaxed, so they learn purely the technique. And especially when I was a teenager, I was very tall but not very strong. Like I matured late in life, like I barely had hairs under my arms when I was like 15. So like me, as maturity, hormones and everything, it came late. So I was very tall, but I was not as strong for my age. People they're like 16, they are already like full beard, all muscly. I was like, I barely had any beard when I was 16, nothing. So
I'm like that now. I'm 40 and I'm still like that.
yeah, little. So my body, it developed late. So I didn't have power to use, and I'm big, so I'm training with guys who are like way stronger than me. So I didn't have the power to match them. So I think that massively helped develop my technique, massively, because I couldn't match the power, physical power. So I had to develop my technique. So that massively helped my game, my skills.
So do you think that's something where like a lot of newbies should focus on when they come in, is just focusing solely on the technique, not wasting energy, not trying to like power people off or explode out, but actually work on finding that gap, getting the time, not wasting energy, kind of building, do people come in and focus too much on the sexy stuff like the submissions rather than the escapes and getting the fundamentals and the basics right? Where do you see people going wrong when they start jiu-jitsu or return to it?
First is ego. First is people's ego. Like men, we have a lot of ego. We hate to lose. So I think for a man to accept defeat to another man is very hard. So you're going to use as much power as you can not to lose to the other person. Like a kid has no ego. Like you watch, You watch a kids class, you watch two kids training. They will accept being under pressure, being in a bad position, and still be very relaxed. Kids, they don't care. They can get swept, they can get mounted, they roll around one place to the other, and they do all that being very relaxed. You don't see them like powering the way out of that. That does not happen with adults. Adults, they will muscle their way out, not because they won't accept defeat. They won't accept being defeated by another man because of the ego. Like I can't be defeated, to that person. So I'm going to try to muscle my way out of that. I think that's the main thing with a man, with adults, with us when we are adults. Is first is like we have our ego won't let us relax because we can't lose. Because when you're learning, the learning process, I mean, you will be put in a bad position. You get caught. So if you leave the ego on the side, you will not going to try to muscle your way out of that. So in that process, if you don't do that, you'll be developing your technique because you will try not to get caught, but not maximize, using all your as much power as you can. So people with a lot of ego, they take much longer to learn because they will try to rely on power as much as they can. That's why smaller people, they will always much more technical than big guys, because big guys, they're just going to try to overstrength everybody because they're big. They're not going to be relaxed. They're not going to accept being beat up by someone half their size. The small guy, he has no choice. Doesn't matter how much strength and power he uses, they will never be able to defeat a much bigger opponent with their strength because the other guy is just going to power his way through. So they end up developing the defense skills and the technique way more than a big guy.
Yeah, it's like you're describing me there. I remember when I started, I was just in there going, yeah, definitely did that. How do we lose that then? How do we lose that curve, that ego? Is it just putting yourself under, getting swept in the pressure? Because I think was it Helio that mentioned about using jiu-jitsu as a sort of life philosophy. How do we use it to grow, to lose the ego, to build confidence, but sort of understand we're there to help our teammates to be the best version of ourselves, not care about tournaments and wins and stuff, but actually grow as a person as much as developing your jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I think that comes with practice for sure, because eventually you will see that the repetition of the training, you will tell you that muscling in your way is not always going to help, because it might help with training someone your level, your size, or somebody smaller. But the moment that you, like when you're a beginner, when you're white belt, let's say you're just training with white belts. But the moment that, let's say, you get your first color belt, which is the blue belt, and now you have enough skills to train with purple belts, right? The white belt's not really going to train with purple belt, but the blue belt will. So when you get to train with someone much higher, a lot more skilled than you, doesn't matter how much strength you'll use, he's still going to catch you. But you will see his example that he's not stiff. So you will see it, firsthand that power is not good. You're not going to help you much. So for you to become good, you have to become skillful. That's when you start relaxing more and more, because you will see that power only going to get you up to a point. It's not going to, you will create a barrier, because you're not going to beat someone much better than you with power. You will still lose. And the technique, and first you get too tired, right? People that use a lot of energy and a lot of muscles, they get tired very quickly. And then when you're tired, it's suddenly you drop like your skills, and you become as if you're blue belt, you're tired, you're white belt, because now you cannot defend yourself, because your skills are your strength. So you learn on the process. The more you train, the more you see that you cannot rely on power. And if the people that use a lot of power, so that means the body is very stiff. So it's much easier to get injured. Because if you're resisting, you're holding for dear life, and then suddenly one pulls, like, you pull a muscle or something, you will injure yourself. people that use too much power in training, they always injure.
I really like that way of looking at it as like you're a blue belt, but as you tire, you become a white belt because you can no longer do the technique correctly.
Yeah,
If you're trying to fight somebody, you go back to white belt mentality because you lose the nuances of your techniques, and it's a great way of looking at it. And then I suppose it's the same. It's the blue belt keeps the ego, so you become a white belt fighting each other for a win when you can just tap and start again. And I love the way that you look at these. So how do you start taking so many techniques? Like because I remember you mentioned another podcast where nobody preps the bad situations, like the escapes and things. And people always said how you had this knack of finding a space. You always looked like you're in a bad position, and you just seem to calm and then escape. How do you start piecing together, like a turtle escape to an attack, then a chain to, like, when you're on the mount, to then how you're going to submit them? Is it like a video game? The more you do it, you kind of piece it together and the map opens up a bit more? Like, how
yeah,
does it go in your head?
yeah. I mean, first you get used to it of being in a very bad position because, I mean, until I became really good, I went from being really bad. It took me years and years and years of dedication and training really hard. So all those years, I mean, I was losing a lot more than winning. I had like hundreds of people like used to beat me up, tap me out. So, and but I used to train with the best. I used to give my best. I never really care about losing because it's a learning process. I'm like, you can catch me today. We're gonna still train tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. One day, my goal is to win. One day, I'm gonna catch you. That was that was always what I had in mind. I don't mind losing. You can catch me today. I'm learning. One day I'm gonna catch you. I'm gonna train until I can catch you. That's what I always had in mind with my training partners, people I fight. I don't mind losing, but I hate losing. I'm gonna give my best to win against you, and from you learning. So it's the coming back and trying to change something, trying to develop your skills, and one day I'm gonna win.
So do
Doesn't
you
matter how
see?
long, I will.
I love that. I love that mindset of, like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's not what's happening today, it's how you're going to grow as a person later. Where does that sort of humbleness come from, do you think?
I think it comes from within. You know, it's I don't know. If you ask me where did I came from, where did that come from? I don't know. I think I was always humble. I was never. I don't remember ever being arrogant. So I think that's just the way I am. I was always a very calm person. I was never someone who gives to emotions, a lot. So I was naturally that came very natural for me. Of course, I used to get nervous and things like that. But that calmness and I think I wouldn't say I was born with that. Maybe I was. I don't know when I developed that, but I don't remember being otherwise. So I think that always helped me massively. Just being the way I am, it helped me a lot.
So what's your sort of mindset when you roll now? Do you go in and think, I'm going to go in and explore, I'm going to put myself in bad positions, I'm going to grow, really test myself with my technique, but I'm going to remain sort of fluid and not non-resistant. What kind of do you have a mantra or a, like, what could somebody listen to this use the next role they have to expand and explore and learn jiu-jitsu better, do you think?
Uh, I think it's kind of the same. It's now I'm not an athlete anymore, retired. So I think the intensity of my training is much less. I don't train as hard. I'm not. My conditioning is not as good. My strength it did diminish, of course. I was in my top condition. I was like, my condition was better. I was stronger. I was faster. My time reaction was better. So now that I don't compete anymore, I think things just kind of slowed and calmed down a bit. So my pace is slightly smaller because I cannot keep that pace that I used to have as a competitor because I don't have the physicality follow that up. I get more tired. I get tired quicker. I don't have the strength I used to have because I don't train as hard. So it's the same. I think it's just adapting. Your game is always changing over the years a little. You always kind of, you venture yourself to learn new things, to practice new ways of trying to pass the other person. So the game, you always kind of trying to find out what works for you, what doesn't. It's suddenly I'm doing a different kind of guard. When I play more my back instead of things like that. But it's kind of the same. I think more slower and calmer. I'll say that's the biggest difference.
So, I mean, you've talked in other podcasts about when you train for competitions, you didn't have a strategy because it was always you thought it was so unpredictable. You didn't really plan for it. How did you sort of train for competitions without a strategy? Did you just go in and think, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm going to focus on? What's your planning for those kind of things?
I never really made a strategy because I don't really believe in strategy much because things can change. When you focus too much on a strategy, if suddenly the fight is going in a different direction, you can be lost. You can suddenly lose
Mm.
yourself, in the middle of the fight because it's you plan, you've been training for weeks, the fight to go one way and suddenly it's going a different way. And then what do you do? Do you change strategy? Do you change plans in the middle, or do you try to force the fight in the way you planned before? That's already a very negative point to happen in the middle of the fight.
Yeah.
And I think it's I've trained every position. I've trained being a good and a bad position. You never know what will happen. You cannot predict. Suddenly something can happen. It's going to put you in a very bad position. I think the training, it will tell how you will react being there. It's and I used to put myself in every bad position because I know if I happen to be there, I need to know how to get out. So it's I train a lot. Like I always wanted to implement my best game. I don't care about the other person. I'm not gonna plan any strategy in what they are doing because that means I have to change my game. And your A game, the things you do best. I mean, that's your weapons to beat your opponent. It's what you do best, your best moves, your best sweeps, your best guard pass. That's why I always have to focus. What I do best. If they can block that, they're better than me. I mean, if you can completely neutralize all my game, you beat me. If you can do that, you win the fight. So it's like I'm gonna implement my best games, what I do best, and that. I mean, if that's not enough to beat you, I'm just not good enough.
I suppose that's hardly ever happened, to be honest, like somebody beating you. But I really like that because if you do a strategy for somebody else, you're playing their game. You're changing your way of doing it to suit them. Yeah, I like that.
No, I need to do what I do best.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
So you've said about how the fight starts before the referee says go. That you used to sort of lock eyes with a person. You would maybe be messing with them in the press conferences and stuff, but you were just giving them that reminder that you were going to beat them. How do you switch on that competition mindset? Because you seem to be just ready in the moment. But what's your kind of go-to thing? Because you've talked about watching, which is the first for me, watching Braveheart to get ready for jiu-jitsu. You said in Brazil you used to go for a swim.
Yeah.
I think it was Gladiator was the other film you used to watch. Like, what's the the Roger Gracie method of getting ready? Because you just seem to go like that and you're in the moment. But what's it like for you?
Yeah, I mean, when I used to live in Brazil, I used to live right by the beach. So, and I used to every the tournament that I used to compete, I used to wake up, go straight to the beach, go for like a swim, just like a swim, just to be in the water. I used to
Hmm.
sit down in the sand, stretch, like 5 minutes, nothing major. Stay in the water, maybe 5, 10 minutes, like a few strokes, and then come out, kind of then walk home, shower, breakfast, get changed, and like let's go to the tournament. That used to be my routine because I always used to. It doesn't matter. I never used to compete late, so just used to wake up early if it was to fight early. So that was my routine. Because the water used to kind of wake me up. I used to like get the energy of the sand, the water. So that kind of used to give me a bit of keep my mind clear. And like walking into the tournament, the moment you walk there, it's like you want to switch. I want to switch my mind out of everybody, everything, and everybody, because I want to stay, like in my own zone, not be distracted by anyone, not really talking to anyone. I'm like, at least I used to be like listen to some music, put a hoodie on, not really staying in my zone. Then like an hour before, start stretching, warming up. When I'm warm, and just wait to be called my name, and walk into the mat, to the ring, and walking in. I mean, now you're like, okay, now this is my challenge. I need to face that opponent in front of me. So my focus was already who I was gonna fight. Even before the referee, I was already switched. I see nobody. I'm like, now nothing exists. Like, there's no thinking now. I'm like, just be very calm, stay focused, and then as I walk to the ring, I'm already facing him even before the referee starts. So my eyes, my focus, my attention is all on my opponent. I'm reading him. I'm trying to see how nervous he is. I'm staring in his eyes, not really trying to intimidate. Never really, there was never my intention to, look at someone's eyes, like, trying to intimidate anyone. I was like very blank looking, but my focus, my eyes, it was on his eyes. Now I'm like, even before the referee say go, I'm like, my eyes will never come out of my opponent. And then right away, I see how much nervous he is, how his confidence, body language. If it doesn't stare you back, if he's nervous, that's already a good advantage. If he can look in the eye, if he's avoiding you, all that is like, then it just build your confidence. The more my opponent show weakness, the more I used to grow because I'm like, he's afraid. He's nervous. He's insecure. That shows on his grips, on his reactions straight away in the beginning. It kind of shows a bit.
And are you looking to kind of feel your way into it, absorb, and just kind of react till you get to a point where you can start implementing, your preferred strategies? Or are you kind of just, do you prefer to be the aggressor? How do you like to take on a fight? Because I think too many people focus so much on the training beforehand. How,
Yeah.
because you just seem relaxed and calm in that. Is it just that you're confident in your own abilities? You're going to just wait for that moment, hit the perfect technique, and then just win it? Do you even think about it? Like you're saying, do you just zone into it and go,
Yeah, no,
it's
no.
just
I
another
think
opponent?
no. With me, it was like, you know, as a black belt, we fight 10 minute round, just one 10 minute rounds, and then either the person tap, which you might finish before, or it goes to decision, whoever score more points. So 10 minutes is a long fight. So for me, it's like as soon as the fight starts, I'm kind of feeling the fight. Getting slowly into that rhythm until I pick up mine. So it's because for 10 minutes I couldn't start very fast because I would burn a lot of energy. Then it would be hard to recover and keep that pace to the end. So for me, I was always a very slow starter.
Hmm.
A lot of my opponents, they come in very aggressive first, like, trying to put in a lot of energy to trying to score some points on me or to trying to do something. And I was the opposite. I never matched their pace. Like a lot of my fights, I start losing. Suddenly he took me down, or he did an advantage because he put so much energy and effort for that. The beginning, that I never really matched that, because for me there was no point. I don't mind. Okay, suddenly, okay, the guy scored 2 points, or he did an advantage, but there's still a long fight to go, and I'm still fighting my rhythm. I'm getting in the rhythm of the fight. So my pace, it will slowly come up. So my energy, my effort to try to do anything against my opponent was slowly picking up until say like 4 minutes max, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm increasing my pace. So I'm trying harder to do things, but still not full on. And I always kept the pace to the end. It goes a bit faster and then it slow down, but my pace never stopped. And that was how I overcame most of my opponents, because every time I fought a very big and strong guy, every time they all gassed, all of them, because they rely on power, and they never, and they couldn't keep my pace, because a lot of the things that they rely on power. The beginning is very hard because they're very strong. They have
Hmm.
their whole energy to try to defend what I'm trying to do. So it's very hard, but their resistance will drop because they cannot use. They won't have power to defend the whole fight. 10 minutes is too long, and after 5 minutes, that's when I was used to grow a lot in the fight. So the first half was hard, very hard for me. Every first half was like tough. Second half always much easier, because I just found my pace. I found my zone. Now I have my rhythm. Now I'm going, and they is slowing down.
That must be terrifying. You're breathing out your arse, you've blown your what, you've shot it like Roger Gracie, you've given it all, and you're just beginning to warm up. That must be just terrifying for your opponents. But so,
Yeah,
but people have said when they've rolled with you that even when it looks like they're close to tapping you, you just find this tiny bit of space and you come out, or you can hit a submission from anywhere. Do you prefer using positional like sparring so that you can learn to attack the body from all positions, that you can find escapes from all positions? Is that the key for the best development for anybody, including a fat guy about to return to jiu-jitsu? Should we be
yeah.
using more positional sparring?
To learn, yes, that's when you develop your skills, because the repetition of the same situation, at some point you will learn. So it's, if you practice the same sparring situation over and over again, and you can make the same mistakes over and over again, but at some point you will try to change something because it's
Hmm.
not working. For some people, it might differentiate how many times it needs to happen for you to change something. That's just numbers. But it's the repetition. If you're doing the same move, you're trying one escape. You tried the escape, it didn't work. You're gonna try the same escape, it's not gonna work. I mean, at some point, you will try the escape differently, or at some point, you try to find the right time for the escape. You're doing the wrong time, or you're doing something that's not working. So you always try to change something, and at some point, something will happen if you keep changing, that you're gonna escape, and then you're gonna replicate that same movement, and that's when you improve. Now you practicing the same escape, doing something different that is now is working. So that only happens with the repetition and of that specific situation, because the specific sparring, if something happens that you're out of that situation, you stop and you go back again. And you
Yeah.
out of the situation, you stop and go back again. So you keep going back to the same situation, so you get to try the same things. That's when you really learn, because the repetition, repetition, repetition. I can tell you, if you do this escape, do this, and it's going to help you escape. But then you got to practice. And practice just 5 minutes or practice once or twice is not going to make you learn that. You need to practice many times, many times, many times until you start doing without really thinking much. That's when you really learn a move. When the move comes naturally without having to think much before the move. Because fighting, everything happens fast, right? Fighting is a movement. We're fighting, and then boom, something happens. We're fighting, boom, something happens. You don't have time to think much. What should I do now? With movements, you can't. It's instinct, and that's when comes, it's what's the name? You conditioning yourself at that moment to apply that technique because you've done that dozens and dozens of times. So you're only going to do naturally without thinking if you've done many times. That's why you need to repeat, the same movement over and over again. Then it's like body memory. Your body remember. The mind doesn't have to tell the body do that now. Because if the mind has to think and then tell the body to do it, too late. Now we're moving out of, now we're no longer in that position. You change. Now it's something else.
So how do you focus then on building that conditioning? Is it through positional sparring? Because I think you said you stopped lifting heavy, so you went to Olympic lifts and hill sprints.
Yeah.
How do you train to keep the longevity? To be able to do, like you're saying, to train at such a level. Is it, do we need people to be doing a bit of weight training, some sprinting, but also be on the mats? What's your take on the people who say the best way to be conditioned for jiu-jitsu is to do jiu-jitsu? Would you agree with
Yeah.
that?
It is the best with nothing compares to doing jiu-jitsu. I think, as an athlete and a hobbyist is completely different. So let's say, most people that train jiu-jitsu are just hobby. They do for the love of the sport. So I think when you're young, your body's strong. You can be in awkward position. Your body can be twisted, and then you'll be fine. Today I had a little bit of pain in my back. Next day, you're brand new. As you get older, it's different. You
Oh
suddenly
yes,
you got a little pain on your back that will stay there for days.
definitely.
So yeah, so I think some kind of weight training. To be honest, like any basic weight training is fine. If you can squat, do pull ups and push ups, that's fine. That's enough. If you do that twice a week, like 70% max of your, of your power, 70%. It doesn't have to be more than that. So that means you're making your body stronger. Your lower back, the muscles of your back gets a little bit tighter. The muscles on your shoulder get a bit tighter. Your joints, everything gets stronger. So when you're going to train, your body, you're not going to get injured as easy because your muscles will hold. You're building muscles, even small a bit. But now your muscles are stronger. If you don't do weights, and then because jiu-jitsu is unequal on the body, like it's you use more your left arm than your left most of the times. You use more of your left leg than right leg, so you're building the muscles differently on your body. So when you do weights, you align all the muscles together because if you do squats, is your whole body working both sides exactly the same, carrying the same load, doing the same exercise. So you kind of equalize your muscles when you do weights. That's why I think it's very important, especially for as you get older. Especially, it will help you on your longevity. As you get older. The older you get, it's extremely important to do a little bit of weights, even once a week. If you get squats, put 20 kilos each side, 10 times, four reps of 10 times. That's enough. Once a week, that's good. Twice a week, amazing. That's it. You need nothing more. So it's not, you don't have to be a bodybuilder, like do crazy weight training, but you do need a little bit. It will help you a lot. Like if I'm doing basic weights, I fell on my shoulders a couple of times during my life. That I have a weakness in my shoulder. I never needed surgery, but it bothers me a little bit. It gives me a bit of pain. Sometimes puts my neck a little bit. Sometimes my lower back because I'm tall and my core is not super strong. Sometimes I put myself in some situations that afterwards, like, my lower back hurts a little bit. So if I'm doing weights, changes everything. Suddenly all my pains to go away.
I think you've just got a heap of people signing up for gym memberships just now because people always think it's like this secret sauce and stuff. And I love how your sort of techniques are. Just keep it, like don't go mad the night before. Go in, switch on the day. Have a easy breakfast, loosen up, but then get in the zone when you're there. Don't like there's don't overcomplicate it. But when you did lose and you hardly ever lost, how did you look back at these? Or when you had a poor training session, did you analyze it? Did you journal it? What goes through your mind, or do you think, yeah, it's a marathon. I'm learning from it. I'll use it for the next one.
Yeah. Every time I'm lost, I'm like, I'm not happy. I need to get better. I'm not good enough. I need to get better. That cannot happen. So I'm like, gotta get better, improve my skills. That's what I always thought. I'm like, almost. Like as a black belt, every time I lost was like very close fight. Like a one
Yeah.
small advantage. And then I'm like, fuck, I need to get better. It's not, I made a mistake. I need to be better. And then train more.
So would that just be implementing positional sparring? So you lost at this position, so I want to focus on that in training, or
Yeah, I mean, it's most of the times it was like one small thing. It was more. One time I underestimate the first time in my life and only that I underestimate someone, I lost. I'm like, that's bad. The second time I was too stubborn, and most of the times that I lost, I could have won easily. To be honest, I could have. I think it was my stubbornness that made me lose maybe 2 fights, 2 or 3 fights. I think it was more. I lost to myself more than my opponents. It was more like it's. I wanted the fight to go this way, and I persisted too much instead of trying to change. I think my arrogance. I lost to every time in a black belt. I only lost to myself. My arrogance made me lose. My arrogance, my stubbornness, and then I'm like, I need to get better. I need to be more mature.
I love that. I love that way of thinking. It's I made the mistake, but I can fix it. I can go and you've just got this amazing way of looking at it. But when you've retired from competing and you decided to go into coaching, how did you deal with that change? From the adulation of the fans during competitions and the noise and the lights and all that to coaching. Did you struggle, or was it a natural progression? Because you have this beautiful relationship with your dad. Do you think you're always predestined to coach together, build an academy, to have that connection?
Yeah, I think for me it was easier. It was easy in a way because I saw it coming. I knew years before. I'm like, when I get to 30, around 37 years old, I will hang my boots. You know, I'm like, I never thought myself fighting, competing, over 37. And when I was 30 years old, like it's my academy start growing, my association, all the business that will get involved, and I always to put everything on hold in a way that my main focus was my career, my competition. So if when I have a fight, when I have a competition, I used to stop everything that I was doing for fully focus on my training, fully 100%. Like 5-10% I was to focus in other things. But I think over the years that was just getting more and more. In the last few years, I couldn't 100% just focus on my training. No, I had to be still involved in other things. And I had like opportunity and plans, to do things that I kept on hold for years because I knew like I don't want to start something and then suddenly I have to stop because I need to train. It's not gonna it's not gonna be good. So and then I knew I'm like, okay, maybe in 2 more years, maybe 3 more years, I'm gonna stop. So I saw it coming slowly. So it was easier when I stopped. Of course, it's saying that's the hardest part of an athlete any sport, to know when to stop. Because what do you do after? I mean, something you've been dedicating for 20 years. Suddenly you have to stop. Now what? Like, you see how many people keep coming back. They retire, they stopped, they come back because they had just haven't, they're not doing anything more. Or, everything that they're doing is boring. They don't have passion for it. My passion was fighting. So they all keep coming back. Like, it's who who do you think, like, okay, that guy, the athlete, any sport, whatever, like, okay, when he had amazing career and then he stopped on his top and then he never came back. Like, who? Nobody. No one. Like, look at the end of every sports person. They all try to come back, and were always a disaster because they're not who they are anymore. They can be still good, but they will never be who they were. I think that's the thing with me. People ask me, when if you're gonna fight again, it's like you still have it. You're still very good. You should fight. You should fight. I will never be what I used to be. Now it's impossible. I'll be 42 this year. I'm still tough. Don't take me bad. I can still be well prepared, but I will never be what I used to be. So for me, there's no point. Zero. Like, if I can't be what I used to be, why should I compete again? Why? If I'm worse than the old Roger used to beat me up, then I mean, you have to accept, turn the page, go do something else.
But I think that kind of links into what you were saying a minute ago about being the maturity of it. It's the growth from it, and like there goes to the Helio statement of using jiu-jitsu as a kind of a growing tool, a life philosophy. You're now going into the next natural progression. So how do you find that juggling of having a family? You've got a beautiful family, but you've also got multiple affiliate businesses. You're coaching, you're training, you're doing all these amazing things. You've got RGTV, you've got all these kind of amazing things are happening. How do you find juggling that now? Do you struggle with it, or does the pressure from competing help you in this sense?
No, I think it's now it's different projects. You try to build and create new things. Before was like I'm trying to build myself, my skills as a fighter, as a competitor. Now it's not the point anymore. Now you focus in your energy in building other things. Creating different things in life,
Yeah.
things that you couldn't do before. Now I have the freedom to do it. Like before, I could never get involved with any long term project because I would have to stop that project for weeks out of in the year, because now I have to fight. So I can't do that anymore. Now I need to stop. Now I don't have to stop. Now I have the chance to build, things in a long-term project, which is, I mean, life is still exciting. I started my academy very young, so when I retired, I already had my academy. I think people that never opened the academy, suddenly they stop competing, and then now what? It's natural for you to, it's easier for you to build academy. You have your reputation and everything else. People that want to train under you, but you starting something that you've never done before. That's why it's very difficult for.
I love that. I love it. So, if you had somebody listening just now who wants to try jujitsu, they're a major, they've been watching you, they've been awed at what you do, they've listened to this and think, wow, I've got to try this. Or you have a fat, squash nosed, big lip guy speaking to you just now saying he wants to go back to jujitsu, say after 6 months. How can we go back and be the model student, the guy that goes in, like when do you know you're ready to compete? When do you know you're able to do it? Is it going in and just thinking, I'll have a laugh, I'll pick a competition a year away, I'll do me versus me, I'll try to be a better person? Can older athletes, like I'm 40 now, can you realistically look to win competitions? Or is it about growth at this age, just being better and healthier? What's the best way of being a student going into jiu-jitsu later? Is there any difference to a young pup?
No, There's absolutely no difference. All you gotta do is walk to the academy and train. What's the difference? There is no difference. The difference now is the older we get, the more afraid we get. Now we're afraid to lose. We're afraid to look bad. We're afraid to feel bad or feel embarrassed. I'm going to lose. I'm unfit. I'm this. What if? Now is a lot of what ifs. Kids, there's no what ifs. They go and have fun, and that's it. Adults, when we get
Mhm.
adults, like, what if this? What if that? What I hear the most is, I tell people, come train, haven't trained for a while, or, try to convince someone jiu-jitsu is amazing. The first thing they tell you, oh, yeah, but I'm so out of shape, man. Give me a couple of weeks. I'm going to train a little bit and I'm going to go back. I mean, you're never going to go back. If you need to do something to
Mhm.
go back, to start, training, it's not going to happen because you're afraid to lose now. You're afraid. That's your ego telling you. I mean, it's the best way to get fitness in jiu-jitsu is training jiu-jitsu. Well, you're gonna expect to be 6 months away, 1 year, or never trained before. You wanna get that first day and look great. I mean, what in
That's,
life do we do day one that we're gonna look great? Tell me what.
I wish it was true. I wish it was true.
Nothing.
But
Absolutely
uh,
nothing. I want to start French. I mean, the first day is the worst. Like you don't even know how to say hi. I mean, what worse can be? Well, I'm going to read a book before I join a class because I don't want to look so bad. I don't want to get there and I can even say hi. I mean, so what? You're learning. Go train, man. Okay, I look terrible the first day. I got beat up. I got half my size. Yeah, so what? That's your ego. You will. I mean, if
mhm.
that's the case, shit happens. Come back the next day and try to improve. After a little while, suddenly, been training for a while. Wow, I feel great. Now I'm doing it. I feel better. Now I know things. I'm back on it.
I love that. I love it. It's like, because I think I definitely made it. Like, I overcomplicated it. I was living through the ego.
You find
I
an
was
excuse not
thinking,
to go. You know.
uh, oh, I came out. Every roll was a fight, not to lose, but not, it's like not tapping when I could have and just saying, "Oh, brilliant, you caught me. Let's go again." Or learning. It was living the ego. I lost the fun of it. And I watch my nephews just now playing football and all these sorts of things, and they just do it for the fun of it. And I was thinking, that's the mindset I need to go. But I know we're an hour in, and I can't believe we're just touching the surface. I've got thousands of questions. I'd love to have you on again because it's an honor. I think I got a bit starstruck at the start. But what would you want people listening to remember from this? Is it a message, some points, or is it a focus you want people to just remember about jiu-jitsu, competition, about yourself, about what we can do in life, what we're capable of?
I mean, I think what I want people to see, it's everything is possible. If all it takes is dedication. Everything. I mean, I'm a living proof
Mm.
of that. It's. I mean, I stand at the bottom of the in my dedication and my motivation kept me going, and I made it. I became who I am. And I mean, jiu-jitsu, everyone that trains jiu-jitsu, it changed people's life, change their lives. It's the best thing in the world. Like, it's not because don't come train with me, go train with somebody else. I don't care where you train. Jiu-jitsu, until you do it, is the best thing in the planet. It's the best exercise. It's a full body. Every time I train, I switched off my mind. After training, you're so relaxed. Suddenly your problems are not as big as a problem anymore. You
Yeah.
don't care much. It's like not, whatever. Like, I'm just there with the guy who trying to rip my head off. That's a real problem. That's life and death problem. The guy was trying to rip my head off. I have to face that problem. Every other problem is not a bigger problem anymore. It's. I mean, jujitsu, until you do it, change your life, change everybody's life. Look at the world. Look how many people are doing more and more. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, Zackenberg, just for his first tournament. I mean, everybody's doing. Everyone who gets into it, they fall in love. All you gotta do is leave your ego outside. That's all. If you leave your ego outside, it will change your life.
And is that just from turning up? Do you think losing the ego is just
Enough.
growing maturing as you go along?
There's no preparation, nothing. I'm away, I've been away from training a while. Sometimes I'm too busy traveling. My conditioning was terrible. Now I want to get back into it. What do? I walk into the academy and train. First day is a disaster. Gas, can't do more than a few rounds, short rounds, because long rounds was not you're gonna kill me. I keep coming back. The next day I'm better. Next day I'm better. 2 weeks in, oh, I'm a different person. My cardio is better. I'm getting my reactions are better. 2 weeks. Give it 2 weeks, you suddenly say, "Whew, I'm getting into it." But your body will change. Now you're more relaxed. You're not as stiff. That's it. Practice. All it takes is practice. The more you practice, the
And you
better it
seem
becomes.
to you have this amazing academy where everybody seems to like each other and they get on so well. What would you say to people about using jiu-jitsu as a way to make friends and connect and like kind of find your tribe, your people?
I think the one thing, in my academy, of course, you have that in your other academy as well. I think jiu-jitsu is kind of place that everyone is equal. Like it's one place that you go where, anywhere in this planet, that everybody is equal. You put the gi on, the only different, what's different in people is just the color of the belt. Doesn't matter who you are, you're training.
Yeah.
It's your level that matters, not who you are. So everyone is in an equal place. And I think that creates a big comfort for someone who's you recognize by your skills, by your effort, not by your social status, by your color, who you are, where you come from. So I think that's the place that people feel comfortable. If the environment is good, like I like to believe my academy is, I think we have amazing environment. Everyone is very happy. It's that there's no judging. Is you are measured by your skills and your personality. If you're a great person, people will treat you well. You people will say hi with a smile. They were happy to train with you. If not, the people won't talk to you. It's by who you are.
Mhm.
It will dictate how you treat it inside. I think that's what makes the academy special. Jiu-jitsu is everyone is equal, and you are treated by who you are, not by what you have. Or you know,
I like that. I like that kind of give to others, be the good training partner for others as much as you expect from them. And don't, yeah, I like that way of looking at it. Like, I would love to have you on again and do a round two. How can we keep in touch with you? How can we come down and train? Do you offer people coming in from other gyms? How can we sign up for RGTV and use that, your instructionals? How can we follow along this amazing evolution that you're doing for jiu-jitsu?
yeah, I have my main school in Hammersmith, West London. If you go rogergracie.com, the address are there, the number, all the information you need, the classes. You come for an intro class. It's just for you to understand what jiu-jitsu is. If you never train, you'll get an instructor who will explain you everything. He's going to show you the class. You will see what happens in the class. You can even try one class straight away. We are open for everyone. I'm very open for people from other schools. We have visitors daily from people who come to visit London for a reason or come to train at school for a few days or for a week. Everybody's welcome. No, I don't. We are open doors for everyone. Everyone who want to train, want to learn. Everybody's welcome. Roger Gracie TV is a huge platform I have for videos, online tuitions, trainings. I have my father's there. I have a few of my instructors. It's really amazing. I have almost 1,000 videos there. There's a lot to learn, and I've just opened a clothing company called Gentle Art Apparel. I started a couple months ago. That's going super well. Have amazing things. It's growing. So yeah, exciting.
Well, that's it for another week, and thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.